Okay, so welcome everybody again to the meeting. We've got kind of like a rough running order. So we're going to have Emma Holland on first. She's going to talk about CKC Karate, followed by Arjan Sandhu, who will talk about Emerald Square, Sufyan on the conflict in Gaza, and then I'll be talking about Black History Month. Then on to Peter Mason, who is the leader of Ealing Council, followed by air pollution. Brenda Sharma's community meeting is next, Warren Farm, and finally new housing. So I'd like to introduce Emma to the meeting. Emma, could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, Emma. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, Emma is actually my oldest daughter, and she is here as a representative of the Sensei at CKC Karate Club. So I'll start by asking her a few questions. So can you tell me, where is CKC situated and when do you meet?
So I go on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. in Dormers Wells Leisure Centre, but it's also on a Wednesday from 3:30 till 5 at Durdan School on Lady Margaret Road. So you can go to either club or you can go to both if you want to. I only go to one, but yeah, it's really good. And yeah, two places.
Okay, thank you for that. Why did you decide to join the club?
Well, I started because I wanted to learn how to defend myself with all the knife crime in London, and it's just not really that safe to be around. So I also wanted to learn discipline and help build up good habits for myself and my health. And I found it's really helped with my mental health and my physical health. And I've definitely become a lot stronger. So it's really been beneficial.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know all of that. I know that partway during the lesson, that Sensei sits everybody down for effectively a life lesson. So what does he talk about during the break?
Yeah, so we have these philosophical talks, and Sensei will talk to us about any topic. It can be something that's been in the news recently, or it could be about just like a metaphor. Like he might bring in an object, and then we'll like discuss something about that object, and he'll show us how not everything is how it seems, and it really teaches us to be open-minded. So it's really good.
So it's very good for self-discipline and developing your awareness of the world and current affairs. Yeah, that's brilliant. So could you tell everybody what skills you've learned so far?
Well, currently I'm a red belt, and I've learned how to properly like punch people and kick, I guess, but in a defensive manner. So it's not just about attacking; it's about being able to hold your ground and do it with good form.
Yeah, I came home from work one day and I saw you practicing your kicks and punches, and I was taken aback. I didn't realize you were that good. I was very, very impressed. And I know that you work out every night doing so who's the guy you follow? I've forgotten his name. Joe Wicks. Yeah, Joe Wicks, sorry. And I'm quite impressed with, the number of press ups you can do and squats and lunges. So you're very, very fit. What are the ages of the children who attend the club?
I think the youngest is about 5, but we're definitely looking for more seniors, so from 13 to 21-year-olds, because there's actually quite a few juniors, but definitely we are looking for older students. Like, for example, I started when I was 14, so you don't have to start when you're really young, you can start at an older age.
Yeah, it's good. And for those of you who don't know, Sensei Onka, what's his surname? Is it Singh?
Sing.
Yeah, Onka
Yeah.
Singh. He's very well known in the community. And I remember a couple of summers with you, we were in Southall Park and I saw him. And previous to that, I'd actually seen him on Spin the Wheel, which is on BBC One at the moment. And he actually won. And I thought, I recognise that face. And I remember years ago you were at primary school, you attended one of his martial arts lessons. So that's where I recognised him from. But he's very, modest, very down to earth, and does a lot to do with the Sikh faith in supporting the community. So what do you do for the club apart from attending? What's your job role?
Well, I'm secretary, so I run the social medias, and they're both the same at ckc.wedoitforkick. So I'll put that in the chat later. And I do help Sensei out, and he also runs his organization called Life, which is where he provides food for the homeless from donations, and he supports anyone who is in need. Really, you don't have to just be homeless. If you haven't got enough food to feed yourself, you can go to Sensei and he'll help you out.
Yeah, very caring. Okay. Is there anything else you want to say about your experience at CKC?
It's been really good. I've definitely become a lot more confident, and it's really helped me. And I do think it can help a lot of other people, and it can benefit the community because it's where like kids can go and they can express that anger in a way that it's free without harm. Like it's not like they're going to be fighting on the streets. Like they're able to just express it on a punching bag, and then they can also learn from that, and they can use that anger and then control it, and it can be just really beneficial for everyone.
Yeah, I've certainly seen a change in you, and I would encourage more young people to do martial arts because it's very good for self-discipline. So thank you very much for sharing your experience at CKC and representing Sensei Onka. You've done a really good job. So if you can just, I know Sophie shared some of the links, but can you also put Onka's number in the chat?
Yeah.
And the social media as well. I think you're actually going to stay on the call, aren't you? Because later on I'm doing a little bit on Black History Month, in particular talking about your grandfather and grandmother. Some of it you may know, and some of it you may not. So you might also want to contribute. So thank you. I appreciate your input tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. We have Arjun, another young person. I hope you don't mind me saying it, Arjun. I know you're at uni now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
So you are an ardent campaigner on both public transport and also a local playground, Emerald Square. So I'm assuming you'll want to talk about Emerald Square, but you perhaps might want to talk about some other matters.
Yeah. So long story short, I kind of started on this Emerald Square campaign only about a year ago, because I noticed the play area and just the park generally in itself, like most of us would have seen it when we did certain events there, like the bins all broken, like benches aren't in a good shape and stuff like that. So my aim is to try and get the housing association, whoever they are, to come out to Emerald Square and kind of refurbish the park. An example was only today I was on the phone to who is he? A person from A2 Dominion called Delhi Ryder, who's in charge of all the funding and stuff. I know this is going to be talked about separately, but yes, he was invited to Virendra Sharma's forum last Thursday, and it's only then when I actually raised up the issue. And today I got a phone call from him saying that not many of the residents are actually keen on having the place refurbished because there's the worry of ASB happening there during the night. Also, he told me that there's a lot of like drunk just practically antisocial behavior is the main issue, and that's why they don't want it done. But I did kind of mention to them to at least get the bins repaired and the benches repaired, at least if that's the case. So he said he'd speak to Coral, who you and I both, Angela, got in touch with about this time last year, I think it was, about this. And ever since then, we haven't had ever since before the meeting, in Verinder Sharma's meeting last night, we had no contact with A2 Dominion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's
It's
such a lovely area that could be utilised better.
Yeah.
And, I don't buy the argument that not many people have children in that particular location, because I've done leafleting and lots of the flats and maisonettes had children's shoes outside of the front door. And we know when we held the event for the King's coronation, despite the fact it was raining, children turned up. Okay, not necessarily parents, but grandparents. So, they do stay there and reside there. And, a couple of times we've actually organised events in conjunction with London Play. Unfortunately, the last one, no children attended, but Artie, who lives on the square, is an ardent campaigner, really cares about her community. And I know moving forward, she is going to design a newsletter to share the activities that we've organised, because, we've been donated various play equipment, and it doesn't take much really, to create some active games outside for children. So we're not giving up. The basic things that they should be doing, such as replacing rusty, broken bins, we've been on their case about that. So there's much they could be doing to actually make the area look better. Not just the bins, there's also a broken fence and a damaged seat. So, I think the easy option is just to walk away and do nothing. But we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and I also did mention adding like goalposts or a basketball hoop in that little, that little area in the middle of the park. But if they don't want to do that, consider extending that little dog area out for more bigger dogs who need that space. And because I have noticed that some people who live in the square actually have like one or two dogs, then if they can have a bigger space to, do their thing, be a dog in a way. And I also mentioned that I also did mention to the A2 Dominion representative who came to Verinder Sharma's meeting last Thursday that we did try and hold 2 events. They weren't really successful. I mean, what I'm thinking is to make these play days more successful is having the area where we're actually holding it to be more attractive, and or getting rid of the graffiti, refurbishing the play area, or if they can't do that, at least get the bins and benches replaced.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely can be a more attractive area for residents to congregate, for children and families. But we're not going anywhere, and I think it also reflects when people are disadvantaged and, being down and, really kind of like focusing on the cost of living crisis and surviving day to day. A playground is the last thing on their minds, and the housing association will know that and take advantage.
Yeah, I mean, what are they paying this rent for? They're paying this rent for the park as well. So I don't know what they're doing with that money. They're charging high rent for what? For people just to go to a broken park where there's nothing.
There should be little wins like a rusty bin, a broken bin, which is a health and safety hazard if a child goes near it. Needs to be done. There should be no argument really. And they said they would do it, but it's the length of time that they actually take in to respond to the request, which is an issue. Yeah.
I mean, just generally, the whole thing just needs a refurbishment. Like the gates need redoing. It just needs a new lick of paint. Everything needs redoing in that place. But I thought there's no point kind of doing everything in one go. But do it bit by bit. starting with the
Yeah.
bins and benches, because those are the things people are going to use the most. Then probably the children's play area. Then probably the gates will be the last thing that we'll repair. But who knows? It's up
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
who knows? It's up to A2 Dominion now to sort it out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that the problem is with housing associations, you've got to be persistent. You've got to be in it for the long haul, because their level of engagement is not the best that it could be. But thanks, Arjun. Appreciate your feedback for the meeting and making that connection. So certainly outside of this meeting, you know, we can discuss further with Artie how we can take this forward. But
And
thank you for that.
even Fiona as well.
Yeah.
You know, just so we need to get into contact with her again, practically, just to get like an update of what she's planning for the place as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thanks, Arjun. Sufyan, I'm going to say there was another trigger warning, just a reminder that he will be talking about the conflict in Gaza, and we recognise that this is a very sensitive issue, provoking strong reactions. I would ask you just to listen to Sufi, and I think he's quite right in saying if it's something that's very uncomfortable and you don't want to listen, that you've got the option of leaving the meeting. And if you do, I'm more than happy to rejoin you to the meeting. So over to you, Sufi.
Welcome all. As I said, once again, my name is Sufyan Abdul Kayyum. I'm an activist in the area. I've worked with Cash for close to 4 years, maybe 5 years coming on to. I am also an activist for injustices. Now, what's going on in Palestine, I strongly feel about. I'm not Arab, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not, I've got a connection with Palestine through friends I've got. But why I feel so strongly about this is because I'm a human, and I've got remorse, not remorse, but you know, I've got a sense of guilt in me. Reason I say that is little things we've done as a society, i.e. bring the Tories in. I wrote an email to Rishi Sunak 2 days before he flew to Israel. And I said to him, I said, do not say the UK stands with Israel. Because there are march after march, 300,000 people 2 days ago marched the streets of central London. There was a mass prayer, what's called a Jamaat. It was done outside Downing Street. The minister said it's illegal to hold a Palestine flag in protest. Now on that, I made 3 videos on my Facebook. I'm not against gays, I fully support the LGBT community. But if the gays and the lesbians, the trans and the LGBT community can hold their pride flags high and wave them around and paint the streets rainbow, why can't the Palestinian people and the pro-Palestinian people hold their flags high during protests? Peaceful protests. They're not breaking into shops. They're not creating havoc. They're standing up for the people who can't stand up. I saw a video of a 2-year-old baby getting shot in the head by an Israeli militant. They've claimed the Israeli government has the most sophisticated intelligence out there. More sophisticated than Britain, more sophisticated than the US, more sophisticated than Korea. They claim 40 babies were killed by Hamas. Now, who are Hamas? Hamas is a group of not militants, because Palestine doesn't have an army. They don't have a military. They're a group of, I say, activists who went and did what they did in Israel. After 40 plus years longer of taking a battering from Israel. And I said this, I said, look, if I come into your house, if I came to your house and I just said, yeah, get out, I'm living here now, are you not going to put up a fight? Babies are getting bombed. I know a family personally, 4 generations have died in one airstrike, 30 people killed in one airstrike. I was on the phone to a friend whose grandmother, mother, aunties, brothers and sisters have all passed away without even saying goodbye. His grandmother was on the phone to him the day before. And in Arabic, she said, my dear beloved grandson, if I don't make this out alive, believe you me, I've had a good life. And please keep safe in England. So people, how can we help in the UK? I'm not saying go out there and protest, because that's not for everyone. I understand that. But just as a thought, I wrote to our local MP, Verinder Sharma. There's a website I found called campaign.notify.app. I'm going to put the website in the link. This is an AI-generated letter. This letter states the figures. Let me just read this out to you. Over 2.2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, half of which are children, have been subject to collective punishment. Israel has cut off food, water and electricity, fuel and medical supplies, have been preventing the entry of international aid convoys through the Rahif crossing, which is the crossing to get into Palestine. Israeli forces have bombed hospitals, schools, residential buildings, and businesses. And the bombardment continues. An Israeli expert in modern genocide has called Israel's ongoing assault of Gaza a textbook case of intent to commit genocide. So I will put in this link into the chat. Again, it's an optional thing to do, but it literally takes 30 seconds to do. And I am so, I'm very disgusted actually with the response from our government. Now, I stand apolitical. Before anyone accused me of being anti-Tory, anti-this, anti-that, I'm apolitical. I don't stand with no political organization. Even when I stood in local elections last year, I stood as an independent because I don't believe in any particular any particular mainstream party, because they don't represent me. They represent the 1%. Now, the link's in the chat. It literally takes about less than 15 seconds to do. Put your postcode in, fill out your first name, your last name, your email address, and your home postcode. And that's it, an AI-generated letter, and you click send. But just on that, at a local level, Islamophobia, not as at a national level, sorry, Islamophobia has risen by 74% in the last 4 weeks. These are stats from the ONS, the Office for National Statistics. I've been stopped numerous number of times in my life by the police. I've never been arrested, I've never been charged, I've never even been cuffed. I hold no criminal records, I'm not associated with anyone of that sort. And it's down to stereotyping. And Rishi Sunak, he can say to me, oh, I'm a terrorist for supporting Palestine. But okay, if I'm a terrorist for supporting Palestine, well, what are you for supporting a government who is blowing up countries left, right, and center? And another thing is, people like saying, oh, the media is showing X, Y, and Z. The media also covered up what happened in Afghanistan. The media also covered up what happened in Libya and Syria and Lebanon. Because a lot of people during the pandemic, the beginning, a lot of people were saying the media is lying about the numbers. And it came out to be true. So we need to, as the member of public who have a shelter over our head, use our resources collectively. I'm not saying, as I said, I don't want you to go out and protest and stand with us in the flesh. But the least you can do anonymously is do this letter to your MP. And that's a plea for help from the Palestinian people. I spoke to someone who lives in Jordan, who is terrified for their lives. Jordan's the neighboring country. They're saying, what happens if Israel decides to take us over? And Israel before the 1940s did not exist. It's not on the map. This is what people need to realize. Israel is a made-up state, in my opinion. Not in my opinion. If you look at a world map before the 1940s, Israel did not exist. It was Palestine. And over the years, Palestine's just shrank and Israel's just grown. And that's down to invasion. So a lot of people want to say to me, well, why are you defending a country which doesn't exist? But Palestine does exist. Palestine has a state. But a lot of people are getting anti-Israel and anti-Semitic mixed up. If somebody is against the Israeli government, does not make them anti-Semitic. I am not anti-Semitic. I've got Jewish friends. Some of our closest colleagues are Jewish. I've got Jewish relatives because my family have interfaith marriages. But what I'm anti-Israel. I don't believe in their ways of doing things. If they've got an issue with the Palestinian people, they should not kill a 2-month-old baby. What has that baby done to deserve that? A grandmother who was 79, whose grandson I know very, very well, was shot in the head by an Israeli militant because she's a terrorist. A 2-month-old baby was shot in the head again by an Israeli militant. Is he a terrorist? A mother who is pregnant, is she a terrorist? So people are getting the terms mixed up. They think anything that moves in Palestine, a mosque, a school, or a hospital, is a Hamas space. It's not. Hamas is a very small section of Palestinians' population, less than 1%. And they want to blow up mosques and schools. That's an attack of my faith. But the UK government don't see that. The UK government thought in Parliament to say, oh, you're not allowed to wear a flag. You're not allowed to. I had a friend of mine. He had a Palestinian poster in his window. The police knocked on his door at 5:30 in the morning and said, you need to remove that, sir. He said, why? He goes, it can be seen as a danger. He said, if somebody's got an issue with me, they can come to my door and knock it. Because I'm not doing anything. It's where I'm from. So you think about that. If Palestinian people don't have the right, or people don't have the right to wave a Palestine flag, why is it any of us have a right then to wave our nationalities? Is it fair? No, it's not. And I was speaking to a journalist last week. And I said to her, I said, if you want to publish this report, you publish it, but you don't change a single word I've said. And coincidentally, that report hasn't, and that article wasn't published because she was not happy the way I said things about the government. At the end of the day, as Martin Luther King might have been from the US, but as he said, I have a dream, and that dream wasn't just for the Black Africans or the Black Americans. Nelson Mandela didn't serve all those years in jail just for a selective people. He did it so we all have a right. You have the women, the women's rights. You've got X rights. You got that. What about the Palestinian people's rights? What about the Palestinian people who don't have a voice, who can't have a voice because they're too scared to get shot for even speaking? There's videos going around left, right, and center. An unborn baby they were killed. The mother was killed. Now, in Islam, we believe an unborn baby or a stillborn baby to go straight to heaven. But that's besides the point. That baby had a life, which he didn't even live. the grandmother who was 79, who was shot in the head. What did she do? These are questions the politicians, the councillors, the government should answer for us. Because then we've got our taxes, and I refuse, and I've told my employer, I said, I refuse to pay taxes if this is where my money is going. Because our money isn't for the Israelis. I don't pay my taxes so Israel can go blow up my people. When I say my people, because they are my brothers and sisters in Islam, and they are our brothers and sisters in humanity. It doesn't give the government the right to use our military, our NHS, our Metropolitan Police. Our resources are underfunded, and they want to fund millions and millions and millions to the Israelis. Furthermore, the Prime Minister launched a sponsor a Ukrainian scheme when the thing between Ukraine and Russia was happening. Where is the sponsor a Palestinian scheme? I'm not saying pay me to take a Palestinian, and I will take a Palestinian for free and live here and let them live here. But I'm saying there is no, there is nothing equal in that sense. There is no equality, zero. I said this, and I'm due to go. I'm on a talk in a couple of days with somebody from Parliament, because I've said over 100,000 signatures. Why hasn't this been passed and spoken about in Parliament? It's because the UK government want this money from the Israelis and vice versa. If Palestine was a multi-billion or trillion-pound country, they still wouldn't stand with Palestine because they're terrorists. A terrorist is what happened on 9/11. And to date, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but to date, they can't prove who was flying that plane.
Sophie, I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah, no,
I really appreciate
your
your contribution on such a sensitive and controversial topic. But what I would like to do is invite people to ask questions or to share their views on the Gaza conflict.
Fire questions at me, I'm more than happy to answer whatever I can. But again, I'm no expert. I'm just speaking from what I've read about and what I know on the ground, what's happening.
Or just to ask you about your people. Does anybody have any questions for Sophie? No,
I think that's it.
Sophie, I really appreciate what you've shared. I have done some thinking about what's going on. And last night I was watching the news, and there was this Israeli family on, and the husband has been kidnapped. The whole family were held at gunpoint by Hamas terrorists. And the oldest child, an 18-year-old girl, was shot in the head, shot dead.
Yeah.
And that just broke my heart that her parents couldn't protect her.
Yeah.
And they showed her funeral. If you let me finish. And just for me, hearing about people, regardless of whether they're Israeli or Palestinian, being killed, tortured, seriously injured, families completely annihilated, is heartbreaking. And for me, I would be a depraved individual if I didn't feel for the Israelis who were killed at the concert and in the various kibbutz settlements. That's shocking, and it's inhumane.
Yeah.
But likewise, what is happening in Gaza, and I follow the Times of Gaza on Twitter, obviously now X, but to see, children being held by their parents, dead children, and fathers laid out in a shroud with their child in their arms is just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you know, what I'm really trying to say is I feel for the innocent people, whether they are Israeli or Palestinian, caught up in this.
Yeah. And just a quick one. So there's a talk done by Mohammed Hijab, who is an Islamic, I say, activist. He's very knowledgeable. He was on the Piers Morgan Uncensored show, I believe it's called. It's on YouTube. Have a watch of that. Because Piers Morgan, don't know if anyone knows his track record, it ain't good. But have a watch of that show. It's about an hour long. It doesn't need to be watched in the sense, just put it in your headphones and listen to it, because Piers Morgan could not, and it's not only a one-way thing, he had Israeli people on there.
Can you put the link in the chat box if you've got it?
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. But
I think, you know, we need to look at, you know, and consider rather a variety of media sources to help us be educated. I mean, I can say, you know, what's been going on has been going on for years and years. I can remember back to my childhood and how, you know, Palestinian people were treated. And, you know, there's a member of Cash, and she opened my eyes a long time ago, well before, you know, the current situation, as to how Palestinian people are being brutalized, and seeing videos of children and young people being attacked by the military is shocking. Arjan, you've got your hand up. Would you like to contribute?
Yeah, I just want to say something about the Israel-Gaza conflict. When I first saw, because I don't watch the news, but you know, when I go onto the internet, the first thing I saw it was the Israel and Gaza Palestine. I just literally broke down, because you know, it's just like all wars. There shouldn't be any wars in modern day society. You know, I mean, wars.
Sorry, Arjun, this isn't a war.
Yeah.
No, this isn't not a war.
Hold on, Sophie. Let Arjun have his say, and then you can come back in.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not a war, but it's a conflict. And then like wars, conflicts, none of that should happen. You know, we should all. And when I first heard about what's going on, it's just, well, I just started breaking down, because it's innocent lives are being lost. You know, and you know, people are sending me, oh, support Israel, support Palestine. I just don't respond, because I don't know what to say. I mean, what do I say when it comes to this sort of stuff? My mind goes completely blank. You know, what do I say to that? I mean,
Arjun, just
sorry for calling it a war.
It's understandable.
I understand, but I mean, what is it? Is it I don't know how to describe it.
If anyone knows the history, Israel is trying to take over land which isn't theirs, and a group called Hamas came into play and was like, no, we're not having this anymore. You carry on doing airstrikes, you carry on doing bombings and coming in shooting people. So they stood up, basically, and then they've just started. Israel got funding from X, Y, and Z, the UK, the US, and so on and so forth, and decided to up their game and go and start killing. Now, Palestine does not have a military. They don't have an army like the UK does, or like the US does, because Palestine is a state, what I call a state of peace. It's a holy land, Jerusalem, for the Christians, for the Muslims as well. It's a sacred place, and they want to go out and destroy it and take over. But quite frankly, we've had enough of it. So obviously we've, as I mentioned to a colleague of mine from another project I've worked on, organized, not single-handedly, but has helped organize a protest, a march with over 300,000 people, which happened a couple of days ago in London. And in response to that, we see Sunak days before shaking hands with the Israeli Prime Minister saying, "We stand with Israel." But if you look on every single corner of this country, where have there been marches and what are they for? They are for the freedom of Palestine. And it's not save Palestine. They say free Palestine. It ain't about freeing Palestine. It's about saving it now. Because the point is, Palestine has been destroyed to the state of people can't even recognize where they grew up. My friend, who's Palestinian, he lived in Palestine for the first 7 years of his life, and then he came over here in 2009, maybe, because he's 2 years and probably not 2009. He came over. He's never gone back. But as I said, his grandmother, his mother still lives over there. He was over here with his father, and now his father lives in the Middle East somewhere. But one thing people need to wake up to is, do not believe everything you see on the media, because it's not true. Do your own research and look at news sources which are credible. Yeah, the BBC, bear in mind, they're British owned. They will never speak against Britain. They don't speak against the monarchy because they're funded by the government. So have a deep dive into Google. Not only Google, speak to people on the ground like I have been doing. There is a few journalists who have actually opened up their social media, who are there risking their lives, as all journalists do when they're on the front line. But there is a lot going on there, and I don't know everything, nor does anybody, nor does everybody else. You only know as much as you go into this. And the point is, we all need to stay united. And it's one of those things. It's very hard to say, and it's very hard for me to sit here and say when people are like, I mean, Arjun, obviously I understand, obviously you don't know 100% what's going on, but yeah, a war isn't this. A war is what happened with World War. A war is what happened. The thing in Afghanistan wasn't a war. That was a battle. Yeah. People jump to this conclusion that any time, and I say it, not everyone, but most people I know, and it's quite sad when and I say it, the government, the Metropolitan Police are all guilty. All police forces across this are guilty of this. My very close mate has been released today from prison for something. After 8 months of serving inside, he's done absolutely nothing. They found him clear of all charges. 8 months locked in a cell for something he never done, mistaken identity. It's taken the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, with millions to their names, 8 months to prove this guy's innocence.
Sophie, I'm just really conscious of the time. So I think we've given, quite a lot of airtime, and I know, you can't really do it justice in one meeting.
Yeah, no, carry on. No, but yeah.
Yeah, you've really
but obviously anyone
opened
wants
hopefully
to
people's
reach out
minds to the research you've done and your perspective. And I think it's important, that you've got the right to say what you believe, but equally to be challenged. So I've given people the opportunity to ask you questions. Only Arjun has made a contribution. So could we actually move on to Black History Month?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And the reason why I'm going to talk about Black History Month is because I am obviously Black. And, every year for the last good number of years, Black History Month is something that is promoted on social media, or awareness is, developed, and in schools and colleges and so on. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk a little bit about my background. And this is actually a presentation that I delivered in a school I used to work in. and they asked me to do this as part of their celebration of Black History Month. So I'm going to talk to you about my father, and hopefully my daughter is still on the call, and she knows sort of a fair bit, but she might not know what's contained within this presentation. So he came to this country at the age of 25 in 1955, and unfortunately I'm not very skilled and my scanner isn't working, but I'm going to hold up a photograph of him. So he was 25, and this was his last day in Jamaica, in Kingston, before embarking on his ship to start not a new life, but to continue his life in England. And this kind of like photograph makes me smile a bit, because he's got a small suitcase in his hand. That Jamaicans call that a grip, and you can see he's steadying it with his middle finger. And I think possibly looking at his top pocket, one of his top pockets, he's got a packet of cigarettes. I mean, I knew him as a smoker throughout his life, and you know, that didn't change. But anyway, he came here on a banana boat, and when I was growing up, there were a lot of derogatory things said about a banana boat, but in actual fact, to travel on a banana boat, a boat that was carrying bananas as cargo, was actually quite luxurious. So he is somebody I regard as being as part of the Windrush generation. And you're probably aware that the Empire Windrush arrived in the UK in 1948, which is regarded as the first mass wave of immigrants from the West Indies. So my father came here to train as a nurse. And looking at the history, in 1948, the NHS started. And in 1955, the same year that he arrived, 12,145 nurses were men, and men represented 10% of the nursing workforce. I did try to find out what percentage were Black. Unfortunately, I couldn't find that out, but I suspect a very small percentage. So in 1960, men were allowed to become members of the Royal College of Nursing. Obviously, men are still in the minority, sort of bringing it up to near up to date. 2015, 11.2% of nurses were men. My dad commenced his nursing at Pruitt Park Hospital in Basingstoke in Hampshire. And I tried to find the hospital. It no longer exists. But what I still have are his nursing badges. So this one relates to his nursing at Pruitt Park Hospital. And he got this on the 1st of December 1958. It's imprinted on the back. I've got another nursing badge, this one. And he became, or was a registered mental nurse in 1959. So I'm really proud of my dad that he trained as, first of all, a registered general nurse, and then a registered mental nurse, because he was a very caring individual. So it doesn't surprise me in the least that he became a nurse. Anyway, he got to the point in his career in the 1960s where he was quite ambitious and probably had enough of matron being quite dictatorial. And you have to remember, this was a time when Black nurses faced a lot of racism and prejudice. There were some white patients who didn't want to be nursed by a Black nurse. Black nurses tended to be given the worst jobs to do, changing dirty sheets and emptying the bedpans. Anyway, he decided he wanted to become a social worker, and he did become a social worker. And if he wasn't the first, he was certainly So if he wasn't the first, he certainly was near one of the first Black social workers in the country, certainly in the borough of Wandsworth. So for many years, he worked as an unqualified social worker. And in the mid-1970s, he realised in order to progress and develop and be able to access career progression, he took a sabbatical and went off to Newcastle University, where he got his certificate of qualification in social work. And I'm going to mention my mum at this stage, because my mum was also a nurse, and she came from Trinidad in the West Indies. And whilst my father was studying, she worked nights, and she used to leave us with a Jamaican family, my sister and I, to be cared for on the weekend while she was working nights. So, you know, I really respect and admire my parents for dealing with all the challenges that came their way to provide for their family and to also progress their own careers. When I did this presentation to the young people, one of the things that I decided to do was bring along traditional food so they could see yam and cassava. And I told them about the traditional dishes that my family used to enjoy on a Sunday: rice and peas and jerk chicken or brown stew chicken. And it was a time for family and friends to come together. My dad was a very social person. And on the weekends, he would have friends around. So yeah, different time to sort of spend time over a meal, connecting with friends and family was very important. And I'm going to show you actually a photograph of kind of like my extended family. And my mum, actually, can I see my mum? She's the one who's got a headscarf on and some kind of necklace around her neck. And actually this photograph I got today because my mum's come to visit. She's moved up to Halifax. And I'm actually in the photograph as well, and my sister near the bottom. And it is very reminiscent of the 1970s. You know, check out the 1970s carpet and curtains and the flared trousers and velvet jacket. But this was, you know, massive part of my family, you know, to connect with my cousins, my auntie, my uncle, and to really embrace Caribbean culture. And funnily enough, I went to the Mayor of London's Windrush celebration in 2018, and there was an exhibition there, and they had a traditional West Indian front room. The front room was a place that basically wasn't used by the family unless relatives or important visitors came. So it's a bit kind of like sacrosanct. You know, you had your drinks cabinet, your three-piece sofa with your crochet headrests. Children might sneak in there now and again, but generally speaking, it was off limits, and the family used the dining room really as their living room. So it's something I really recognised. So I thought, well, yeah, that's what it used to be like going around to my friend's family to stay for the weekend. And I think for me, oral history is important because my father isn't around anymore to pass down to my children what he taught me. And I'm very fortunate my mum is around, and she's come down from Halifax, so she's spending time with my daughters. So they learn from her kind of like traditions. And I admire her greatly because she came here when she was 20. She had her 21st birthday here. never knowing if she was going to return to Trinidad. And I think to myself, well, you know, when I was your age, I wasn't very mature. I couldn't imagine leaving my family indefinitely, never knowing when or if I was going to see them again. And what I find interesting about my mum is that she's very tenacious and very skilled. When she left school, she became a dressmaker. So I remember as a child growing up, she used to make clothes for my sister and I. I used to hate it. I used to get dragged away from the television. I used to stand with my hands out while she was doing measurements. And she was amazing. She could make dresses without actually following a pattern. So unfortunately, I'm not a dressmaker. I've got no dressmaking skills. But she brought down a sewing machine, and she is passing on those skills to my children. It's kind of like bypassed a generation. And I remember taking her to this event at the mayor's Windrush event at City Hall, and there was a presentation on a film project, 1,000 Black women, and one of the women on the panel was Dame Jocelyn Barrow, and she was a very well respected campaigner on race equality and did lots to actually, you know, progress equality and to really kind of like challenge very entrenched racism back in the 60s and 70s. And I remember sitting there, and my mum said, I used to go to school with her. In actual fact, her brothers were in my class. And I was like, wow. And I said, well, you know, Mum, do you want to go and speak to her after the presentation? And my mum was like, no. My mum's very quiet, very unassuming. And, you know, I was just kind of like amazed to think that going back in her childhood, she knew Dame Jocelyn and her brothers. But, you know, my mum was not kind of like showy. You know, she just said it kind of like in a matter-of-fact way. So, you know, both my parents I regard as being trailblazers. And although I value Black History Month, I don't think it sits neatly within a box of just 1 month. And what I would say to everybody is learn about Black history. Don't see it as being something, you know, tick box exercise to be confined to a month. I follow on Twitter, it's called African and Black History, and it's at African Archives, and I'll type the Twitter handle in a minute. But I've learned so much about my history, lots on imperialism, lots on injustice, but also about Black innovators. So that for me is a massive learning curve. Okay, Emma, you have your hand up, and I wasn't ignoring you. Can you unmute? Emma, do you want to go ahead? Or have you disappeared? Okay, when you're ready, just unmute and you can come back into the conversation. Okay. Okay, does anybody want to ask me any questions?
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, how was the journey for your mum down to the UK? Was it as luxurious as you say it was for your dad, or was it quite rough?
That I don't know. I've never actually asked her that question. But
Wow.
likewise, she would have come on a ship, and it
Wow.
would have taken a few weeks to arrive. And I can only imagine she had probably a mixture of emotions, excitement, a bit of trepidation, you know, looking forward to training as a nurse, but also I would imagine, you know, leaving her family behind would have been a bit of a gut wrench, and arriving in a land where she didn't know anybody. So, you know, I don't think I could have done that. I'm too much of a homebody.
Yeah, it's like once you get used to being somewhere else and you move on, it kind of like it kind of takes a bit of like getting used to it in a way. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
to explain it, but yeah, it's kind of along the lines of that.
yeah, definitely. You need to adapt, and you need to develop resilience. And I suppose when I look at both of my parents, you know, they come from a working class background. I consider myself working class, and it was about
Yeah,
being aspirational, wanting better. You know, their parents wanted better for them than what they experienced. Now, looking at my grandmother on my father's side, she worked as a cook. And this was during colonial times in Jamaica. So she worked in the grand colonial houses. And it was a very stratified society. You had to know your place, yeah? That people who were white were at the top, then you had sort of brown people, and then sort of black people at the bottom, yeah? Now, when my father left school, he had a job as a painter, and he painted the house of the Manleys. And Michael Manley at one time was the Prime Minister of Jamaica. But my father came into contact with his father, I believe his name was Norman Manley. So I think what I'm really trying to say to you, my parents came from really humble beginnings, but because their parents wanted better, they were determined, you know, to carve out a better life for themselves. But I'm also interested, I know Joe's on the call, and Joe has shared a video of his uncle, who was, if I hope I haven't got this wrong, was the first Indian councillor in Southall. And to see the footage of his uncle going around canvassing, you know, I wish the man was still alive. I would love to have a conversation with him. But in saying that, you know, Joe passes on his knowledge about his cultural background in India, and I've learned so much from him. And that is the one good thing I can say about us being campaigners, that we connect and we share our experiences and our backgrounds. And I know it might sound a bit like a cliche, but it makes us stronger. It makes us better people. Okay. Any other questions or contributions?
I think it's fascinating to hear other people's sort of their parents' life from coming to the UK. I mean, I can relate in some sort of way to like my mum's parents as well. I mean, I'm just gonna keep it short. It's not related to the Black History Month or anything. I'm just gonna keep it short. My granddad, he used to live in Africa, and then I think he was just pushed out, came to the UK. He started his whole life again, and you know he got a job in British Airways as an engineer on the the famous aircrafts like the Boeing 747, the Concorde, and he used to find parts for those and fix them up, and they'll be out. And my grandma, who's no longer with us, she passed away during COVID. She did multiple jobs. They weren't at home. They used to come home late at night. They used to do 5:30 in the morning till 10 in the evening shifts. You know, my mum didn't even get to see her parents. She was brought up by her mum, so her grandma. It's just things like that which and it makes me feel like I wish I was there to just witness it all in person in a way. You know,
But definitely it shapes who you are, you know,
yeah,
that oral
yeah,
history being passed down to you.
yeah. I mean,
No, there's that saying, you've got to know where you've come from to know where you're going to. So having those conversations with grandparents whilst they're still alive and sort of grabbing that knowledge from them before it's too late is just so important.
if people
So
are
yeah,
saying,
thank you for sharing your
yeah,
experience.
it's this is what I just know off the top of my head, and from what I've been told. I mean, I can go on. I can go on for this whole meeting about sort of this stuff, but you
Well, the
know,
conversation carries on after this meeting as well. It doesn't
yeah,
just end. It's not
yeah,
neatly boxed off.
yeah. But there's a lot of I can say, you know, about this sort of stuff. But, it's fascinating, and
Yeah.
they say spend time with your grandparents because you don't know how long they're going to live, sort of thing. That's kind of one thing I try and take into consideration the most.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Thank you, Arjun. Jan, would you like to go ahead?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting listening to all your stories of your parents and everything, because probably not a lot of people who know me know, you probably don't know this all about me, Ange, but my mum came here from Austria in 1960. She came over here on holiday for 2 weeks to come meet her sister that lived in Heston. And she ended up met my dad, and she stayed here. But I remember her saying to me, because my mum's mum died when my mum was 7, so she didn't have a mother bringing her up. I don't remember any of my grandparents. As you know, Ange, my dad was born in Grange Road in Southall.
Yeah.
And when I hear what my mum went through when she came to this country, one, she had to sign in at the police station every 2 weeks. And they were, as she was seen as an immigrant coming to this country, she too could only get certain jobs, which was like a housemaid, or she'd be like yours. My mum was a dressmaker in London, and she would tell the story that she worked for a Jewish guy actually, and he got to the stage where he couldn't pay them any wages, so he used to give them fabric to take home, as in payment of, because he couldn't afford to give them any money and everything. And I've still got some of the fabric upstairs now in my wardrobes, where I just can't get rid of it because it's got sentimental value. And also the amount of times, when like racism and stuff like that, Ange, and my mum experienced it as well, because they saw her as being a German, and she would walk down the street here where I live now, and the neighbours would give her the Heil Hitler sound,
Oh no.
yeah. So when she used to tell me about this, it was horrific. So it just shows you what people did to come to this country and work. My mum had 3 or 4 jobs on the go, just to make ends meet in the end. So I think Arjan's right. We have to learn from our grandparents, from our parents, because we don't really know what they went through years ago.
100%, Jan. And you know what you said about your mum losing her mum when she was 7, and that really, has touched me, because it's so hard to be brought up by somebody else, who might be maternal, but isn't your biological mum. And there must be that wondering inside, would I be treated differently if I was brought up by my, biological mum? So yeah, it's about having respect, for the elder generation, and what they've been through to give us a better life, and appreciate what you've shared. And it shows actually there is more that connects us as a community. And I think, the powers that be would like us to stay as, Sikhs, Muslims, Christians, black, white, brown, whatever. But when we actually get together like we are tonight and sharing our stories, Arjan, myself, you, we can see the similarities, and that has to build a stronger connection. Thank you for that. Emma, do you want to speak? I can't unmute you for some reason. I don't know whether you've disappeared, but feel free to come back in later.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna join the call on my phone. You've got to accept me.
Okay, we'll do.
Thanks.
Hiya, Emma. Go ahead.
Hi.
I couldn't unmute you before. I don't know what the problem was, but yeah, the floor's yours.
I just wanted to let you know that Nan's been here, and then
Oh,
that
she been
she's
listening?
been really appreciating, yeah.
She said
Not very long, just
She's been appreciating what you've been saying.
All right, so just everybody in the room, this is my mum. She's in Sunbury at the moment. And I didn't know she was listening to the call. I thought it was just you in the kitchen.
It was, but then I told her, and she came in, and she's been really appreciating, and she said she's been remembering, and it's really nice to hear.
Oh, that's lovely. Thanks, Mum. Is there anything you want to say?
You're doing a good job.
No, but is there anything you want to say about your life on the topic of Black History Month?
Well, most of what you said relates, and it's just I wouldn't want a lot of repetition, but at the same time, I have been fortunate to have had good white neighbors. Auntie Millie from Casholton, yes?
Yep.
And Auntie Millie was like a big sister. And Joan Francis, who is deceased now, Auntie Millie is deceased, and they were good human white people, and they were supportive as a young woman with 2 children, and I learned a lot from them. And I am still in touch with Auntie Millie's daughter, Sally, and I am grateful for that sort of relationship. So in between the mixture of the hardship, we can find people who treat you as human, not look at the color of your skin. And I was grateful to have had such a neighbor who she looked after you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you know, we came from a community, and Auntie Millie obviously wasn't related, but you know,
No.
I called her Auntie Millie. You know, we just grew up knowing that she was Auntie Millie. In the same way, in the Asian community, and Emma will vouch for this, that her friends call me Auntie, and it's just a sign of respect. So it shows it kind of like transcends cultures. It's not just particular to one culture. Yeah, but thank you for that, Mum. I didn't even know you were listening in.
Well, I came very late because I was watching my program.
Yeah.
But so I got the end gist of your conversation. Thank you. It was very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Anyway, we're going to carry on now because I'm like blubbing here. So we're going to move on to not my favourite topic, Councillor Peter Mason, and I think probably everybody on the call knows who Councillor Peter Mason is. Anyway, we've had sort of numerous attempts to engage with him over the years, not particularly successful. He is the councillor for Southall Green ward, and I actually live in Southall Green. It's very rare, you know, that we see him. He doesn't hold surgeries, and only, in my opinion, seems to turn up when he's videoing one of his sort of what do you call it, puff pieces, fluff pieces, whatever. And when it's election time, he, I would say, isn't on our side as a beleaguered community facing pollution from the gasworks. Actually, I'm not going to use the term gasworks because it's now called the Green Quarter, and very conveniently in his letter responding to Zach Polanski, he called it the gasworks, even though Zach actually named it correctly, the Green Quarter, and I think that's just designed to confuse everybody. One of his colleagues in the Labour Party said he is ruthless, callous and sectarian. We've managed to secure a meeting with him, and we actually invited him to a meeting, but he has taken control and has actually sent us the online link, and I can't remember which platform, but whatever platform it's on. And it was made clear in the letter we wrote to him that this was a joint invitation to meet with Cash, Clean Air for Southall and Hayes, and Centric Lab, as we've been working on a health impact assessment toolkit. But anyway, I received an email from him tonight because I politely asked him earlier on today, could he send the meeting link to all members of the working party, and there's only a handful of us, so that they could attend. And his response was no, just one representative. And he said, I assumed it was you. And he used we. And I thought, well, who is we then? So I've replied to him and said, could you tell me what you mean by a closed meeting? And, you know, who is we? And also what council officers will be attending and their designations, because it's all about control. And I feel quite angry, to be honest, because, as I said, there's very few of us who've been working on the health impact assessment toolkit. And we've all had, you know, an equal part to play. And I might call myself the coordinator, and so does Sufi, but we are very kind of loose organisation in the sense that we don't really have, you know, a clearly defined hierarchy. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm really ambivalent about attending a meeting with him. And if he cannot accept that it's not just one person, myself, who should attend, but all the people who've spent hours contributing to the development of the toolkit, then sadly, I don't see a way forward to actually meet with him online. And I've discussed it with other colleagues in the working party, and one said, well, yeah, sort of, you know, typical Peter, he wants to avoid being questioned. And another member who felt, well, you know, really, we can go ahead progressing our campaign without meeting Peter, because, to be quite frank, he has done nothing to support, sorry, excuse me, a community that is suffering very badly with the onslaught of overdevelopment. And it's not just the Green Quarter. We've got the developments in and around the station, on the Broadway. It's, you know, becoming skyscraper city. So, you know, if Peter Mason is watching this, I would urge you to reconsider that all members of the working party need to attend this meeting. And if you're not willing to be flexible on that, then I am afraid that I will not be attending the meeting with you.
Can I add something about Peter?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, as you know, last Thursday was our lovely MP's community forum. So, and as part of the panel, you've had police, you've had Ealing Food Bank, you had Councillor Peter Mason, you also had Delhi Rider from A2 Dominion, and I noticed just from Peter, just looking at Peter directly, sitting right in front of him, 2 rows behind, sitting right in front of him, I can tell that he was nervous, he looked scared, he looked stressed, because I think he knew most of the questions were going to be based at him. And, you know, and I noticed, you know, Joe can back me up on this, if Joe's noticed it, because he was at the meeting too, but that's kind of what I've noticed from Peter. And also speaking about Peter, I spoke to him about the Sands recycling order, and what Ealing Council can do as a council to, you know, fine them, stopping them from doing that. His straight answer was practically saying, no, we can't do anything. It is out of our control. You know, he said you need to speak to Sands Recycling directly, is what Cash has been doing as a whole. Is we've been speaking to them directly. They haven't been listening. And he also said to report to the Environment Agency. Cash have done that. Where's the response? Or where's the response? When we got a response, it was a half-hearted response. I can tell it was half-hearted responses from the Twitter feeds you've been sending out. And it's just like and when he spoke to me about the Sam's Recycling, he stammered a lot. He stammered a lot. He was like, I can't do anything, sort of thing.
Totally useless. Yeah, Arjun, I definitely acknowledge what you're saying on air pollution. I hope people don't mind if I can move things around, because I'm conscious of the time, and we have some visitors who are campaigning on Warren Farm. So can we just move to Warren Farm, and then we'll come back to the air pollution in Southall.
Sure.
Now, Peter Mason responded on the issue of Warren Farm and has said there won't be a stadium on site, but there's going to be sports facilities. And feel free to come in, the people who are campaigning on Warren Farm, in case I've got anything wrong. I still stand by what I say, that yes, we need sports facilities, but we need them in the localities where the most deprived live, and that's where you and I live, Arjan, where Emerald Square is in the heart of, Now we have Southall Rec, and that has been allowed to decline over the years. So the multi-use games areas, or the Mugas for short, need resurfacing, need relining. The cricket wicket needs replacing. These are facilities that young people can use and are, walking distance from the homes that are around the site. I've said it time and again, Warren Farm for sports facilities, is going to be the most difficult and awkward place to get to. It was well used in the days of Ilya, going back to the 70s and 80s, when kids were bussed in from schools. Schools struggle to lay on, coaches. When my kids were in primary school, by statute, they had to provide swimming lessons, but parents paid for that. I used to pay £50 a term to contribute towards the cost of a coach to Botwell Green Leisure Centre. So I can't see many school trips to Warren Farm, or even parents who are struggling financially. I'm not saying that they wouldn't go, but I can't see it as being a regular jaunt for, sports and leisure.
Farm is, sorry, Angela. Warren Farm is quite hard to get to in terms of public transport. The nearest, we have to go over the bridge to get the 483 bus. And, it's about a 10-minute walk. I mean,
have you walked it from the Uxbridge Road then? Because
yes.
And how long does it take?
It's from the Uxbridge Road, but because I walk at quite a slow pace, about 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, and
even
that's
just accessing it is quite dangerous.
Yeah.
Let alone someone speaking about you're speaking about school kids. How are they going to cross safely?
Yeah,
it's just a case of there's no safe way of getting into Warren Farm.
And the thing is, with cricket is popular in the rec. I mean, I go there in the summertime, and you've got various teams playing cricket, and they've got their big bags, with their their cricket gear and their drinks and packed lunch and whatever. I can't see them getting on the 195 bus. Have you been on the 195 recently? It is rammed whatever time of day or night. It's not a nice journey at all. I just can't see them doing that. And we know that people do that, because it wasn't you I had a conversation with Sophia I said, there's a lot of young, recent migrants, and when they're moving from one room to the next, they take their suitcases on the bus. Don't know if you've seen that, and they're walking around the area with their big suitcases. So I just can't see how, you know, people are going to squeeze on with their sports bags. But what it should be a nature reserve, most definitely, because when you look at what's happening in Southall, all the high rises going up, for me, it's absolutely disheartening. You know, I opened my front door and I turned to the left and I could see the high rises on Merrick Road, and that's got to be at least a mile away. Yeah. So we need green space. So, you know, those who can manage to get to Warren Farm to enjoy walks and all the wildlife there, have that within, you know, reasonable traveling distance. Yeah. And that is important given all the developments that happen, not just in Southall, but in West Ealing and Acton, and, you know, the whole borough seems to be turned into, or will turn into, a concrete jungle. So natural open green space that's dewilded needs to be respected and enshrined and preserved, not as you know, a gift to Virendra Sharma, because I'm not entirely convinced that's off the table. Don't believe Peter Mason. I don't find him to be a trustworthy individual.
Angela,
I don't know if anybody who's far more knowledgeable on Warren Farm wants to talk about the issue.
Angela,
Yeah,
I'm going to
Katie?
leave. I'm going to leave this call.
Yeah.
I'm in the waiting room to be added on the phone, because I'm going to leave the university now. So I can carry on with the conversation if you can add me on the phone.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah.
Okay, see you shortly.
Thank you.
Katie, do you want to unmute yourself and go ahead?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I firstly just want to say thank you so much for inviting us along today to this, and apologies if I was a few minutes late. My computer decided now was a really good time to do a very long update, so it took me a while to get here. But there's so many things I want to talk about over everything that's being discussed, including Black History Month, actually, because one of the things that we're really keen to engage in a lot more, and from the people in that talk to us about it, is to engage ethnic minorities in nature a lot more than currently happens. And there's lots of groups involved that do that. So there's a group by a lady that's known as the Bird Girl, Maya Craig, and it's called Black to Nature. And so her thing is about accessibility to nature and green spaces is, you know, lacking for people of color than it is for white people, who are more likely to go into nature and to educate about wildlife, and about giving role models to people in the Black community, so that they can see that green spaces and enacting with them and the availability of that, how important it is for their health and well-being, as it is for all of us. And it shouldn't just be, you know, nature being accessible within certain walking distances, for example, for the white community, but as it stands, from some of the research that is, and I can share a link on that, that there is a lot of work being done to engage the Black community a lot more with nature, and that's something we at Warren Farm are super keen to work on. And actually we're working with London National Park City to help with that, and one of our team, the brilliant Chantal, and I talk about it a lot, and we're hoping next year to do a lot more work on that, because nature should be for everybody, and somewhere, a site that is as significant as Warren Farm is, and the location of it as well, is a challenge. From all the things you just said about the public transport and the buses, and what you were saying about, you know, those buses being so full, and if people want to play cricket, for example, then you have all the bags and things that go with that, and for that you would need car parking. Coaches are unable to go over 3 bridges. It's pretty inaccessible, and yeah, there's a whole mesh of things to talk about there, and it's really interesting to hear your story as well. My mum was an auxiliary nurse actually, and so I grew up around a lot of nursing and health communities and stuff, and the struggle with that. And yeah, and I loved your mum being on the call. I just want to say that too. That was really,
I had no idea she was in the background.
yeah. As mums always are. Mums are always watching and have that sort of like third sense, don't they, of what we're doing. But no, I just wanted to say also thank you so much for your support for us. It really means a lot. And in terms of for Peter Mason, yeah, it is a challenge engaging with the council, like 100% is, sadly, and we have experienced very similar to you, in that initially we were invited in to discuss and talk with him, and last year that's probably when we did most of our engagement. So when he became leader, literally within a week, we met him on Warren Farm, and we walked around and we talked and did everything, and then he said, do you mind if I film you? And we said, yeah, of course. So, you know, we were filmed, and then when the film came out, even though he just spoke with us about the site being for nature, because he'd been following our campaign to that point, the film, which you can see on our Instagram, he talks about it being for sport and nature, which came as a bit of a shock to us, because it was like, well, if that was the case, I would have really appreciated you telling me that before we were filmed, and, you know, as if that was something we had
support.
Yeah. And really, to be honest, sort of, so the conversations we've had with him, we've had a number of meetings, and that's with the charity that I'm a trustee with, and I have another trustee online, Ellie here now, and some of my team have been, it feels, to be really honest about it, a bit like information gathering on their part rather than fully engaging. Some things that we have discussed with him have gone through, and we only know that because of the letter from the Zach Walensky's response letter, Peter Mason's response to Zach, sorry. So having a wildlife hub, for example, for educational purposes, and going back in, you know, what I was saying to you a minute ago about engaging full communities in nature, and actually not just talking about that, but working towards that, including the Natural History GCSE and people of all ages to engage in that way. So there's hints of that in the letter that have come through when he says there'd be a building for sports, but also a wildlife space. But I don't feel that the response really gave a lot. I think for us, it raised more questions perhaps than it answered. And oftentimes it's frustrating that we feel like we are waiting to find out what the council want to do or say next. And then they put something out that, had they just spoken to us about, we wouldn't have to be constantly pushing back at them as hard as we are. And it's that cycle within the council that is, it's not a good look for them, and it's frustrating for us. And I think from our supporters and what we see, especially on social media, is people are really frustrated with it, the sort of fake engagement, and more than that, the lack of knowledge that the council is showing when they're making these decisions. So I don't know if anyone saw recently, but for example, is it Ravener Park, they did a load of planting of what Peter Mason called wildflowers on the meadow. And if they just spoken with us or did any research themselves, they would have known that those weren't wildflowers. They were non-native species. They were very destructive to the environment that we have here, and insects. And the chances are they more than likely, well, highly likely, from all the major botanists, you know, renowned experts that got on that thread, turned around and said, you know, stop doing this. You've probably ruined what was a significant grassland with native species that are more beneficial to biodiversity in Ealing than to plant non-native species, which none of our insects will, be interested in. And then it just becomes a photo opportunity again, really, sadly, with pretty looking things rather than things that actually matter. And what I would love to see is the council following its own biodiversity action plan. But I think with Deirdre Costigan as well, it's a very similar thing. And, you know, it is, I have been in the room with both of them. We have had meetings with them, and yeah, we are just where we are, really. And so we're just doing what you're doing. We keep campaigning, we keep the voice going. You know, we're pretty vocal about it. We do it every day, and we get the support. And yeah, we just keep going. But now really we're just in a holding position, I suppose, at the moment, to see what they're going to put out next. Peter Mason's letter in response to Zach also stated there would be no stadium. And as I said in my quote to that in the press release, plans change, you know, and it wouldn't be the first time that the council said something that then they backtrack in some way, yeah, or it shifts. It can shift very quickly. And again, for me, the sort of transparency of it is lacking, and the engagement of it doesn't feel, well, it isn't genuine. And the challenge for us is, how do we change that? How can you possibly change, you know, to improve upon that, rather than us always, and with you guys, as you said, having that sort of like, you know, waiting for them to do something, and then us having to go, well, no, that's that's not quite right. And then, you know, it takes a lot of time and energy and resources. Quite honestly, we're all volunteers, we're all people in the community who just really care in an immense way about where we live. And so I can't see it unfortunately changing anytime soon. So the plan is, we just need to keep our voices strong, keep supporting each other as much as we can. And so I just want to say thank you again for inviting us to talk with you, and for all the help that and insight that you've given us. I would love to be able to give some of that back to you in some way. And one of the things I would really like to talk about, although I'm very aware of time as well, and you might need to tell me about this, but is Let's Go Southall. I'm quite keen to talk about Let's Go Southall, because this was set up by the council in part to look at helping the people in Southall to become more active. And my team have been doing some great research on this, and just to give you highlights, because I'm aware, again, time. So some of the stuff around that is with Sports England. So Sports England, just looking at my notes here, have said that the inactivity issues in Ealing falls around 25%. So 25% of people are being really inactive. And then Let's Go Southall did their own sort of breakdown of that to look into it. And they recorded it was actually more in Southall, 43.1%. It's around that mark, somewhere in that figure, were inactive. And that's the figure that the council have kind of been trotting out ever since. I feel like I would love to know where that figure came from, who in the community was asked about their inactivity levels, how that research was done to come to that figure. And the challenge with that is Let's Go Southall had a very large budget. It was around a 5.5 million budget. And I'd like to know where that money's been spent, and how and on what. And I know, like, the Wellbeing Way, for example, has had a lot of money on it. And this is interesting to me, because I'm guessing that's the main spend of where that money has gone. And we know Glade Lane. I don't know how much you know about Glade Lane. That was a site that was originally given to Southall Football Club for their sports, as was Great Western Road. And Great Western Road, the council gave to them and then took away from them and had housing built on it. Glade Lane was given to them. It was landfilled. And then, 2 years ago now, just over a year ago, the council pushed through an emergency, can't think of the word, I'll say order, to rush through a thing so they could landfill the site themselves with what they're doing now, today, for the Wellbeing Way. So that site was, you know, really had a bit of a sporadic history. No one ever really got to the bottom of the original landfill and how that came about. who made money from it, if anyone made money from it. We simply don't know. And now it's looking like this. They've got this, like, I don't know if anyone's been, but these huge mounds of, like, mimicking essentially Northella. What's the word I'm looking for? The mounds in Northella anyway. They're like
yeah.
molehills, basically. I haven't been for quite a while now, but I've been going and taking regularly for like footage of it, just to see the progression, what's happened, sort of the before and after, because I'm interested to see where that's going to go, but also why the landfill wasn't cleared for so long, the original, you know, that was dumped, and then why this sudden emergency thing had to get put through. Again, why wasn't the community sort of engaged a bit more on this? We really don't know the answer to that.
So well, I have to confess, I don't know the site. Maybe Joe, you might know the site. Is it part of what they call Southall Village, or just beyond there? Is it near Top Locks?
You go on Google Maps, yeah, it's near the Top Locks. So Brent River Park, the charity that I'm with, part of Glade Lane is part of the Brent River Park, but not all of it. So in terms of our eyes on it, we kind of missed the initial landfilling back in the past. I wasn't a trustee at the time myself, but it was just outside of what's within the park. So that's why we missed that. But it's interesting for us also in relation to Southall Football Club and their grounds, and obviously publicly as well, with MP Vrinda Sharma, they have said that they would like Warren Farm as their ground. But I'm not entirely convinced that it is them purely that would want, that Peter Mason is thinking of putting there, because I think in that pay to play scenario, having people wanting to make money from things, but building things, or taking money from things, as Peter Mason says in the letter about Gunnersbury, I think it would take something perhaps significantly more and larger perhaps than what Southall Football Club can offer, although they may well be part of it. I don't necessarily believe that they would be the sole holders of it. So again, we're just sort of waiting to see. We've tried to engage with Vrinda Sharma back in the very start of our campaign. We emailed him and he never responded to us. That's not to say we're not going to reach out to him again, because it is his constituency, and I think he is in a position where obviously Southall Football Club is linked to him through a family connection. Not that, being sort of realistic about it, not that it would be his son's fault that that's who his dad is, and if he just happened to like football, then there's I can't see anything too wrong with that. Like, none of us can help where we've been born, and who knows what family things go on. But I am keen, I suppose, now to just see what the council's next moves are, and again we're just in a holding pattern with what that might look like. And yeah, I think that's pretty much where it is. The other thing with Let's Go Southall is that they were wanted to encourage different kinds of activities, but the kind of activities that are actually taking place in Warren Farm now. So walking, running, talking. So that thing with loneliness, not people of a certain age aren't going to go and suddenly start kicking a football around to help their health. They're not.
No. But yeah, Kate, can I just say thank you very much, and we are definitely allies of your campaign. And although I've said I don't see people from my part of Southall going there for sports facilities, that's not to say that I don't value the site for nature, and that it should be a nature reserve, and that people from Southall will go there occasionally, but I just cannot see people who are disadvantaged going there regularly. As for example, I take my daughter to karate once a week, practically 52 weeks a year. The Wellbeing Way, I really don't know anything about. I've heard the term. And if I am vague on it, I'm sure lots of my colleagues will also be vague on it. I'm going to bring Jan in a minute, but also Joe, because Joe would have something to say about if there was a stadium on Warren Farm, how money would be made. And he's talked extensively about how it could raise revenue. But I'm going to bring Jan in first because she had her hand. And then Joe, you next. Go ahead, Jan.
Hi again. Yeah. I was a Southall football supporter since I was at the age of about 7 years old. And as I was old enough, as soon as I could, I used to follow Southall home and away for many, many years at Western Road. And it was very funny because a week before the floodlight fell down, a JCB turned up on the outskirts of the pitch. And as supporters, we couldn't understand why this JCB had turned up on the ground of Southall Football Club. We soon got to know why it was there, because the following week, the floodlight had fallen down. And the rumour was that what we were told was it was done deliberately because the people that owned the football club at the time, which was the Loftus family, they got a lot of money out of the sale of the ground. Then as the years went on, we still supported them away, playing at different grounds around the country or locally. And the rumour was then that that when Verinder Sharma's son took over the club, that it wasn't only going to be used for the football club, it was going to be a way of making money to hold functions there, weddings and stuff like that, because in this area, that is big money. And maybe I'm skeptical, but I think that is still the only reason why they're interested in having a stadium. It's not the football that brings the money in, it'll be the other functions that will bring in the money.
Yeah, that's really useful and interesting to hear. Thank you, Jen. And I have to say, I'm not against football for the record. Yeah, it's just not on Warren Farm. But I think, how do you feel? Can I ask, how do you feel about what was said in the response letter that Southall Football Club were talking with the council about having a ground in Norwood Hall, and for whatever reason that hasn't progressed? How would you feel about Southall Football Club having a ground in Norwood Hall?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, at Norwood Hall, my mum worked there as the caretaker of the Norwood Hall, because it used to be the old Southallians that used to play there on a Saturday morning, and I used to go out over there and help with making the tea and the coffee. I don't watch Southall Football Club purely because now when the Sharmas took over it, it wasn't about the football, it was about making money, and I took myself away from it. I now am a supporter of Hayes Football Club and things like that. I just think it's all a smokescreen. I think we've heard so many rumours. Southall was going to go here, Southall was going to go there, and none of it has ever materialised. I'm surprised that they haven't gone for the Warren Farm aspect. I personally don't think that will be off the table. I think it's all a smoke screen to try and take people off the scent. But yeah, I think Norwood Hall would be an ideal. But the problem is that ground, I think, belongs to Ealing Council, but it's in the grounds of there's a Sikh school there. And I can't see them agreeing to that. I mean, I walked on there a few months ago just to be nosy to see, because I grew up on that ground, Norwood Hall, as a very young child, and they wouldn't even let me walk on there.
Really?
Yeah, they wouldn't. As soon as I walked on there, the security asked me what I was doing there. And I just explained to them that my aunt, my mum, and my dad all worked on that Norwood Hall site, and I just was going down memory lane looking at my childhood. But within a few minutes of being on that road, which is like an access to the Norwood Hall, I was told that I couldn't be there, and I was told to leave.
You see, this is so sad on so many levels. But with a school being there as well, you would think this was an opportunity to engage that school in sporting activities there, you know, alongside some funding from Sport England or another sort of way of doing it. Again, without that, you know, pay to play aspect so much. But I'm sorry that you got, that's just very unpleasant, that you went for memories and had security approach you. That's very odd. What I would also like to say, obviously, is that there was the public consultation, and the results of that obviously were wildly in favour of Nature Reform Farm. But again, coming back to Let's Go Southall and the sort of things they're doing. So the whole point of Let's Go Southall was to develop more effective ways to engage the community. And we feel like perhaps they've convinced Sports England that they've achieved that. But one of the things that came out of their research on these things was that people in Southall do not like generally to fill in, or are more unlikely to fill in, online public consultations. And that was a result that came from a Let's Go Southall study. And then when it came to Warren Farm, they did an online public engagement. So even though the results of their own research said, you know, you're not going to get the sort of response you want, let's do it anyway. And so they did it anyway, and it came out wildly in favour of nature. And then since then, the council have still ignored their own results, and they talk as if that they know what the people of Southall want. And actually, we don't feel that the people of Southall have actually been engaged properly on Warren Farm at all from the people that we've spoken to and that have spoken to us. So again, it all seems to sort of come back to Let's Go Southall a little bit for us at the moment, the more research we're doing into it.
Yeah, I have to agree, because I went along to the Ealing Cabinet meeting about Warren Farm, and I sat there in the public area, and I was shocked when they were talking about, oh, they wanted the cricket pitches and the football pitches for the Asian women of Southall to get more involved in cricket and sport. Now, I live in Southall, lived in Southall my entire life. I walk to my local park every single day for a walk. No disrespect, I don't see any Asian women partaking in any sport apart from the fitness equipment in the park.
And walking.
And I was actually walking around like I do. I just think they're using it as an excuse to justify what they want on that area. That's just my own personal view.
We haven't seen any research that backs what they're saying. And it just does seem to be like you've said, it's a lot of wordplay. There's a lot of wordplay that's involved in this. So like with Warren Farm, we have the whole win-win sort of wordplay that came out, and it's frustrating because, again, we're going straight back to the start of this conversation. You know, the engagement is a bit fake and a bit false, and it seems more about publicity for it than not, which is disappointing on so many levels. And I appreciate that, obviously, working in a council, you're not going to please everybody. Like, I do believe and appreciate that, because everyone has, different opinions on different things and different needs for where they live. But I think when it comes to Warren Farm, the pushback on them is so great. And, our petition is so large to still be pushing through sports and that narrative in the face of, what everyone is telling them, and not doing proper engagement, we feel, in Southall on that part, is really disingenuous and disappointing.
How many people have signed the petition? Is it 23,000?
My dog's here scratching his ears today.
Right.
He's going to the vet on Thursday. But
it's over 20,000, isn't it? Yeah.
23,500. We are, if you go on YouTube and you Google 8 out of 10 bats, BATS, it's a spin on 8 out of 10 cats. It's the new Chris Packham online show that he has put forward himself. So where Autumn Watch was cancelled, Chris Packham decided he would do his own thing. And it started yesterday. It's 7 o'clock every night for the next 2 weeks. And we are going to be on it.
Well
so
done.
We're going to be on the Chris Packham show with our brilliant campaigner, Kabir, who is presenting.
Amazing.
So we are going to be on there, and that's going to be really good, again, to just keep raising awareness. It's what you
well
guys
done for that.
It's what you guys do. Like, you just constantly just raising that awareness of that.
Yeah.
Awareness. There we go.
Yeah, you can't stop and you can't be
No.
complacent.
No.
You know, on the basis of a letter that says we're not going to build a stadium at Warren Farm. I'm really conscious of the time. Can I bring Joe in? Because I'm sure Joe would like to contribute. And, you know, he's spoken about what Warren Farm would potentially be used for other than football. Hi, Joe.
Good evening. Kate,
Hi, Joe.
I was listening to what you were saying. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Joe.
You're saying that they held an emergency meeting, the council cabinet, and they passed. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
You're
go ahead.
breaking up a bit.
You can hear me, yes?
Yes.
You said that the Ealing Council held an emergency cabinet meeting and they passed permission for land which was situated in Hanwell somewhere. And then there were homes built on that land. Is that?
No, so what happened was it's two slightly separate things. So Glade Lane is Glade Lane is in Southall. It is in Southall, yeah, and it was once put forward for the Southall Football Club ground, and then it got dumped. It had lots of landfill dumped on it for many years. It was just sitting there covered in really horrible toxic-y landfill. Whether someone made money out of that, we don't know.
That's behind Noons.
But then it was
behind Noons.
Yeah, it wasn't a cabinet meeting. It was like I can't get the phrasing right. I'm not going to get the phrasing right. Forgive me. It was a very quick
motion or?
Yeah, it was a motion. I can get you all the proper details on it. It's been a while since I've had to talk about it.
Don't worry.
It popped into my head. And then they pushed it through to be covered in the soil that's there now, basically. Yeah.
Joe, are you still on the call? Hello?
I'm still on the call, yes.
Yeah. What did you say would potentially happen with Warren Farm, not to do with football? Do you want to share your theory?
I'm a personal believer that it will be turned into a video.
Oh, sorry, Joe, you cut out on me a little bit then.
Yeah, I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, would you mind saying
Concerts
that
there.
again?
We'll use it probably as a wedding.
Oh, the wedding.
Let me move from where I am. Just one moment. Yeah, so it will be used for a VIP wedding, like a marriage, a venue, where people at the moment are using Ascot Racecourse, Campden Park. And if it honestly and sincerely was anything to do with football, and I made this clear, I was at that council meeting when the protest was outside, if you remember.
Yeah, we run that protest. It was a very fun day.
I was there.
Hey, thank you for coming.
You're welcome. And I managed to get myself into the meeting itself.
Oh yeah.
And I was a bit back, I was back taken for the fact that councillors from Southall actually found their way to that meeting, because they can't find themselves to the residents of Southall, but they actually found their way there apparently, and I was a bit shell shocked to see them. And
yeah,
I did explain to the meeting that Southall did have plenty of places where we could have football, cricket. For instance, Spikes Bridge Park in Southall.
Yeah.
But it seems as if the hierarchy in Ealing Council are set in their ways. And I've always said this, and I will always keep saying this till I get out of breath, that they've got money signs in their heads, and they're working hand in glove with the developers, and it's the developers that matter, not the actual residents. And I feel sorry for myself and the local residents, because we are suffering. Believe me, we're suffering. There's no sense of any leadership where we're coming from in Southall. And you've seen the way Peter Mason is acting, and it's clearly he's not holding, you know, he's not looking after our back. And certainly every meeting that I go to and I speak to people, and it seems that, you know, they're on a different planet, and it's not planet Earth at the moment. And if I may, Kate, speak to you about Let's Go Southall.
Yeah, please.
Now, I've looked into this very clearly over the summer period. Let's Go Southall. Let's Go Southall is based in Sikh temple, Indian temple in Park Avenue. Now, they have a unit there, I believe, where they have a let's call it what it is, I think, a bike shed.
Right.
Would I be correct?
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yes, that's where I went to collect my bike from.
Thank you, thank you. I always have to watch my facts. Now, I was told, and Angela, hopefully Jan can back me, when the gentleman who's leading this project came to our meeting, he was telling us that the bikes that they're going to be giving away to the residents are in the value of £350. Am I correct, Angela?
I'm very sorry, I don't remember the value.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
3,000 bikes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Give it away.
So if you do the sums, it doesn't add to £5.5 million. Okay.
Right.
That's number one, Kate. Number two is, I was taking my dog for a walk in the Green Quarter, and I met this gang of a few little lads on their bicycles, and they said, uncle, please, can you help us? I said, what's the problem, son? He said, I've been given this bike by Let's Go Southall. I said, where did you pick it up from? He said, I picked it up from Park Avenue Temple. I said, is this the bike they gave you? He said, nothing works on it. Yeah, the brakes are no good. And the bike I would value at about £25.
God.
Now, when I say, Kate, I was watching into what these guys are up to. I live on Beaconsfield Road. That runs parallel from Park Avenue Temple. And in the summer, we would see them, you know, high-vis, couple of bicycles, couple of coordinators or supervisors. And you would see, you know, 5, 6 ladies riding bicycles. And they'd pass me and I would say, is that really worth £4 million? Because that's what I thought they actually got in the first place. It's only this evening that you cleared it for us, that you're looking at maybe 5.5 million. What a sham. That's what I got to say. What a sham. Now, the question you're probably, Kate, asking yourself is, how they're getting away with this? And I think I've got the answer for you. When people go to the temple to pray in Havelock Road and the joining, it's the same organization, the temple in Havelock Road. If you ask somebody from the Sangat, please, may I have your name? They would very easily give you their name. If you then started talking to them and said, could I have your address? We're doing a campaign for something and we have to write to Ealing Council. They would give you their address. They can't type on an email. They can't send somebody an email. So they have professional people in these organizations who then write the reports as they want the reports to look and sound. Does it make sense?
They have an accountant, Joe.
They have everything.
I know that because I did cycle training with his children. And I just got chatting to the kids and they said, oh, my dad's an accountant for Let's Go Southall.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt
So-
you, you know, because I think they're supposed to be giving away, is it 3,000 bikes? I think if my daughter's still on the call, she did the bike training back in April. We are now in the middle of October, and she has heard nothing about a bike. And it was basically a prerequisite to do the cycle training. So 6 months later, we've heard nothing. Yet they're supposed to be giving away, I think, around about 3,000 bikes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of publicity about that.
Yeah,
Well,
and I'm
I
sure
can-
if we turn up at the bike shed at the Gurdwara, there's probably lots of bikes in there. So I said, because I popped into their headquarters in the Manor House grounds during the summer, and I said, oh, could you kindly tell me where my daughter is on the waiting list? And they couldn't tell me that. So
It's a shame.
despite having administrators and an accountant, something as simple as telling me whereabouts she is on the waiting list and approximately how long she'll have to wait, they could not tell me. I think something is a bit amiss with this organisation, because I live in Southall, and their bikes are branded, because I have one which I received maybe sort of 3 weeks or so after doing my training. So they're branded bikes. I hardly see any of these bikes around and about.
That was going
I've
to be my next question. Are you seeing lots of people using them? Are there cycle lanes to be able to use them? Like,
no, I personally don't. I see my neighbour use a bike, which I think was allocated to his daughter, but he actually uses it himself. But other than that, I don't see people riding around, and the bikes are clearly branded Let's Go Southall. And another thing I think we have to take into account, that many of the activities on offer are actually outdoors in the local parks, which is fabulous when it's dry, okay? But in the wintertime, not so great. Not so great when, you know, if you've organised activities on a Saturday and, you know, 2 consecutive Saturdays, it's peeing down, you know, what is the alternative? We had a fantastic sports centre on Beaconsfield Road that was leased to the council from West London College. When the council decided to relocate courses from Park Royal, they wanted the building back. So we no longer have a centrally accessible sports centre. So I think there's lots of questions about Let's Go Southall and really how effective it is. And I take your point about the questionnaires that they do. Many of our community are not online. You know, the real accessible way to get information is door knocking and calling in-person meetings. You know, that's really kind of like the bedrock of what we've done when we've organised protests. You cannot rely upon social media, not in Southall.
I was going to suggest, why don't we just turn up there one Saturday morning
What, at the Gurdwara?
in Park Avenue and see?
Yeah.
They're up.
Maybe these bikes are being shipped abroad. Who knows? Okay, but I'm being facetious here. But you know what I'm trying to say. I don't think the project is having the impact and the reach that it should do for all the millions of pounds that's been drawn down from Sport England.
it would just be interesting to be able to get a bit more research on that, to understand who is involved and where that money has been spent so far and how much of that money is left, and also how effective it has been. But if what you're saying about your daughter with the bike, it's this sort of thing. But also the council need to hold more, because they stopped doing what do you call it?
Ward forums?
Yes, the ward forums.
Yeah.
And that would have been a perfect opportunity. And like you said, I feel like the council are afraid to do in-person meetings, as again, going full circle to what was discussed at the start of this. They don't want to. They just make up then what they feel the results should be. And again, you know, the community need to be engaged a lot more stronger than they are.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of survey after survey after survey, and then they just go ahead and do what they want. And there was a big fanfare about town forums, and I don't know where you live, Katie, but is there a town forum? Because I've been asking, where is the Southall Town Forum? How often does it meet? What's the sort of constitution, and you know, what's its terms of reference and so on? You know, I've got no idea. It's
Like,
about
we
as
don't
clear as
have-
mud.
No, we don't have town forums at all. I'm in Hanwell. Yeah, I moved here from New Cross, and Acton I've lived in as well. But yeah, I'm in Hanwell now. No, we don't have anything like that really. No.
Yeah, but this was announced big fanfare, wasn't it? You know, 7 towns, town forums, and you know, this is a replacement for the ward forums, and yeah, it just feels like empty rhetoric on the part of Peter Mason.
It's really,
he talks about community power, and I don't believe in what he says.
No, sadly not either. I think also, I think sometimes the way the sort of council phrase it, or you know, it's like there's a lot of conspiracy theorists, or you know, we're a minority actually compared to everyone else, and social media is not the, you know, the be all and end all of what we're doing as a council. But it doesn't actually really wash that way. And I think from everyone we talk to, not just about Warren Farm and the Green Quarter, don't even get me started about them renaming it Green Quarter.
Greenwashing.
Well, unfortunately, that is often what it is, and that leads into a bigger conversation about new builds and all these tower blocks, and where are the Section 106 agreements with these things. That money is then meant to be put back into the community. So we had the Wicks development here in Hanwell.
Oh yeah,
just grew and grew and grew, and you know, more flats got added to the top of it. And yeah, and a Section 106 agreement wasn't agreed upon or applied for by the council, and
shocking.
that could have been, because we've done a bit of research on it, that could have been like, you know, anything between like 50 grand that could have gone back into the community. That could have gone
community infrastructure. Yeah.
So
yeah.
all the blocks, tower blocks that you guys are going through, I mean, that's nothing compared to, you know, what you're going through is nothing. We're dealing with small amounts compared to you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, no, it's all over the borough.
Yeah. But Section 106 agreements, where are those, and what's happening, and why aren't they happening? Things like that are very, you know, they need to be looked into, I would say.
Absolutely.
Greater scale, and the council should be being transparent about it.
And the councillors should be on your side. You know, they should be advocating that this money comes down into the community and benefits the local infrastructure. I'm really conscious.
It shouldn't have to be a development. It shouldn't have to be a development. Not everything has to be a development. So in the local plan, just very quickly, the local plan, the council is saying that they're going to try and de-designate the green belt and metropolitan open land.
Yeah.
And that sort of ties in actually with what Keir Starmer is saying currently. Build, right? But that's our land, you know, that's the community.
Places like Norwood Green, it's terrible.
Exactly. And then you've got Save Gurnell, you know, that campaign that's part with our charity that we're working on, that's about, they want a swimming pool. They just want a swimming pool. And yet the sort of proposals always to be, well, we can build housing here and then you can have your swimming pool, because of the income of that will pay for the pool. And they're like, well, we don't want, you know, all that massive pool thing, plus it's a floodplain, plus again, you're taking public open space. So it does feel like everything is about building and money. To some degree, there has to be an element of that, and I appreciate that. But again, not without proper public engagement, and not being transparent about those conversations that are actually taking place and who those conversations are taking place between.
Absolutely. Katie, can I just say thank you so much for coming to the meeting, and also for your colleagues giving up their time to attend and support you. I'm just really conscious of the time. We're not going to have time tonight to discuss air pollution from the asphalt plants and the Green Quarter. I know we have Sammy here from Cavendish, who is the PR firm operating on behalf of Berkeley Group. So we will return to the Green Quarter in the next meeting. We have lots to say about that in relation to the consultation to effectively almost double the number of homes on site from 3,750 to 8,100. So I'll park it here now, but we will come back to that. Also, the air pollution that we experienced on site in front of their wonderful community facility, Parkside Yards, which might possibly only be a temporary facility based on an email that I've seen in response to an FOIA request. So we'll have that as a discussion point next time. New housing, is it an opportunity or a threat? That is also on the agenda. So can I just say thank you to everybody who's patiently waited to have their say and to listen to others. Really, you know, I do appreciate that everybody's been respectful, given some of the issues tonight were very, very difficult and emotive, I guess, for many of us. So we will hold another meeting next month, and as usual, we'll share the details on our social media. So thank you very much. I'm going to close the meeting now.
And can I just say one thing very quickly, and I meant to message you yesterday. Was walking along the canal the last few days, especially since we had all that heavy rain, and the smell that is coming off there at the moment is breathtaking. I don't know if anybody else has mentioned it to you, but
not along the canal.
Yeah, and I also noticed it in my back garden last night. It was really bad. First time it's been that bad for a couple of years.
I experienced a very, very bad odour this morning. It felt like the whole of Scott's Road was swamped, and I put it down to the asphalt plants. Although I was outside at the time, I was rushing to go and visit my mum and the kids. So I didn't check the wind direction. But it was quite damp this morning. It was a horrible smell.
I've got a funny feeling it was coming from the gasworks, because as I said, day before yesterday, I was walking along the canal, walking the dogs, and where the water was seeping off the land of the gasworks, it was going across the path of the canal, like it does, you know, when it gets flooded there.
Yeah.
And
it was running off into the it stank. But just to say, the gasworks, so not the gasworks, either Conway or Tarmac are a problem, because somebody tweeted about an odour, and they live in Hayes Village. I believe that's a development by Hayes and Harlington Station.
Okay.
And they said it stinks.
Yeah, it was extremely bad last night, because I went out in the back garden and it made me feel quite ill, and that's the worst it's been in my back garden for quite a while.
Well, there's got to be a connection, because this morning I left the flat and it was reeking outside. I was shocked. But I put it down to, one or both asphalt plants based on the person who tweeted last night about a really bad odour in Hayes.
I've discussed this with you. Have you heard anybody else complaining about the tannoy in the middle of the night? I've contacted both FM Conway and Tarmac, and they're both denying it.
We need to get to the bottom of this. What time do you hear it?
In the early hours of the morning, normally on a Sunday morning, 2, 3, 4 o'clock.
I personally haven't, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think we have to raise it on our social media and see if perhaps somebody living even closer than you are, maybe
I have
inside.
asked people on the boats, the boat.
Oh yeah.
And one of the guys said to me, he said it's FM Conway, but they're denying it to me, because I have contacted them now, and they said no, it can't be them, because they don't work 24 hours.
Well, that's not true, because I sometimes go along the A312 on a Friday night, and you see both chimneys puffing away, and this is around about 9:30 in the evening, so that's not true. Yeah, but we'll come back to it. We're going to park these issues here, but definitely we'll start the next meeting.
Can I just very quickly, last thing, I promise, and then we all got to go to bed. I just want to say, do keep contacting your councillors. Don't stop contacting your councillors one-on-one. There are some good councillors in there. There are some good councillors in the council. It's just, I think at the moment it's a bit of a leader issue that we are still working on. We still have to keep trying to engage fully.
Oh yeah. They were all invited
That's
to
the
this
only way
meeting,
things-
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Of
always
course,
invite
yeah.
them to this meeting. We had Varlene Alexander last month. I mean, she did accept the invitation to attend tonight, but I've not seen her in the meeting. But you know, the Southall councillors don't attend, they don't RSVP, they just don't engage. So we don't give up. I just automatically send them an invitation. But you know, please,
councillors are a little more engaging by the sounds of it than perhaps yours are.
yeah,
No.
they're quite complacent in Southall, because as far as they're concerned, you know, it's an easy vote, they don't have to do anything. But yeah, we still always try to engage, as we have done with Peter Mason. But thank you so much for coming and sharing your commentary on Peter Mason's response to Zach Polanski and filling us in on Let's Go Southall. Really appreciate that. And you're very welcome to come back again. It's just an open meeting, public meeting. You know, we don't restrict anybody. And I suppose in a way, you know, it's in response to the fact we don't have ward forums. Unfortunately, we haven't got anywhere to do it in person. That's another issue. But that's why we do it online, because we don't have a community facility. There is the Dominion Centre, but I've tried to book in it, and it's probably because, you know, I'm up front, you know, I'm from Cash, and there's always, oh no, it's never available. So yeah, big issue in Southall. But thank you so much for coming, listening respectfully, making contributions, and I think it's been a really good meeting this month, and we'll do the same again towards the end of November. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
So good night, have a rest, have a cup of tea, and see you next month.
Take care.
Thank you, good night. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, bye.